Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. This is the beginning of an excerpt of a live interpretation of an oral commentary given by Bhikkhu Thich Tue on the Avatamsaka Sutra. We have the opportunity to continue to learn the Avatamsaka Sutra. It's chapter 25 on 10 dedications. And now we are talking about the Bodhisattvas making aspiration to its the indestructible dedication. They attain indestructible faith in all pure ways because everywhere they amass boundless roots of goodness. They attain indestructible faith in the path of dedication of enlightening beings because they fulfill their noble aspirations. They attain indestructible faith in all teachers of the ways of the enlightening beings because they think of the enlightening beings as Buddhas. They attain indestructible faith in the spiritual powers of all Buddhas because they deeply believe in the inconceivability of the Buddhas. They attain indestructible faith in the practice of skill in expedient means exercised by all enlightening beings because they include countless various realms of activity. The last time we have talked about having faith in all sentient beings and to use loving kindness and compassion to impartially benefit the sentient beings, and they dedicate as such. So now we're going to talk about how to attain the indestructible faith in all pure ways. So we have heard about, the virtuous ways, but when we talk about pure ways, then maybe we don't quite get it yet because we haven't yet entered the realm of purity. So when we hear the word pure or purity, then we nod our head in agreement. But once we actually merge there in a state of purity, then it's completely different. We are now practicing the Buddha Dharma, and we are on the path of trying to attain liberation and enlightenment, and we're trying to purify all of our mind streams. So right now, even if we're not doing that many beneficial activities to benefit a lot of beings, but do we have the virtue or the pure Dharma? Yes, because it arises from our pure mind, from our mind stream. So let's say if we think about all the virtues, and what we need to do is we try to let go of all the afflictive emotions. Then that means that we are practicing the pure ways or the virtuous ways. And why we are doing this, why we are practicing this, for us to reach the purity of all the virtues, is actually it's quite a long way of practice in order to get there. So for example, right now we are listening and we are hearing, we are seeing. So that means that we are using our ears or our sense faculties to listen to the Buddha Dharma. So this is a virtuous way. But if we are listening but our mind is disturbed, then is this virtue pure or not? No, it is not. So why we are listening like this? Our body is pure. Our speech, we're not talking, and that is pure. So if we are listening and talking at the same time, then it's not pure. But what about our mind? Let's say if all our mind, all our thoughts interconnect with the Buddha Dharma that we are listening, we do not think about the past, we do not chase after the future while we are listening, then yes, our three doors are pure. And if at every moment we can maintain our three doors pure, even when we're not listening to the Dharma, then that is purity. But let's say if we are chanting the sutra, does it mean that chanting the sutra, does it mean that we are keeping our three doors pure? No, not necessarily, because we can stand in perfect, in perfect posture, and we chant the sutras. Then it looks on the outward that it is pure. But what is more important, more significant is our mind. Is our mind pure at that moment or not? So in all of our functions, all of our manifestations, if we can keep the three doors pure, then that means that our virtues are pure. And this is the easiest way for us to understand from an ordinary point of view. But purity in accordance with the saints or the holy beings are definitely very different. They have extinction of all their intoxicants in order for them to be actually completely pure. So let's say if we are able to eradicate all fetters, and we could eradicate all 7 fetters, and we still have agitation, we still have arrogance, then are we pure yet from the point of view of a holy being? That is equivalent to a state of non-perception, meditative absorption, but still it is not completely pure. We have to be able to transcend such meditative absorption, so that we can no longer abide in the vitality of a sentient being. So if we are still attached to a tiny bit of our self in our personal vitality, then still we are not done yet. So once the holy wisdom arises and we are able to recognize the initial source, the initial root of our personal vitality in life and death cycle, then that is complete purity. So when our body and our mind is no longer attached to these 3 words, then that's complete purity. So let's say if the arhats, they are able to transcend all the intoxicants, all the defilements, and they transcend the 3 worlds, and so then they can continue to follow the way of the Mahayana and travel throughout the worlds to benefit all sentient beings. And when they travel throughout the 3 worlds, they continue to maintain their meditative absorption, no matter how many lives they have taken, how many deaths they have gone through throughout the 3 worlds. They continue to abide in the meditative absorption without leaving it, until they could merge in with the Mahayana ever samadhi. So no matter what they are doing with their body, if they remain in the ever absorptive samadhi, then they continue to be in a state of purity. So, but for ourselves, from a mundane point of view, if we do things with our body, speech, and mind, with afflictive emotions, then we are no longer pure in a sense of having purity. But the arhat, the holy beings, because their mind is completely pure, so even if their physical bodies travel into the 3 worlds, travel throughout the 3 worlds, still they are in a state of purity. So we have learned about all the holy beings, the ones returning bodhisattvas who had that last life before becoming a Buddha. All these bodhisattvas remain in the state of samadhi, but when they enter the wombs, it's just like entering the palace of Maitreya, and inside the womb they continue to elucidate the Dharma, to teach the Dharma, and they are completely pure. So just like the Buddha, he after he entered the world, after he left the womb, and he was a newborn, but the way they explain about Siddhartha, Prince Siddhartha, they were talking about how even with just a towel that is completely white, and you use that to wipe his body, and there was no defilement whatsoever. So even if they enter the three worlds, because they remain in the state of samadhi, of complete samadhi, so they cannot be defied. Even physical substance cannot defy them, cannot bring stain to them. So here we're talking about the last part of the Buddha's history, and we've talked about it a lot in the past, right? So we were talking about how the Buddha passes away because he ate a bowl of poisonous porridge, mushroom porridge from Tuda, and he passes away. But this is something that the non-Buddhist is trying to smear the history of the Buddha, just like when we were talking about how when they had to eat the food of the horse, when the monks chew on these, somehow they taste really horrible. But for the Buddha, when he ate fruits from the horse, they even were just like nectar to him. So then, just like at the end of the Buddha's history, because he was at the optimal of his enlightenment, so he had to be in complete purity. But the non-Buddhists try to insert this piece of history into the end of the Buddha's life history to try to bring him down, to try to smear him. You have to think of the kind of great merits that the Buddha had accumulated throughout his lifetimes in order to become a fully awakened person. So regarding the poisons that the Buddha had, that people try to poison him, but due to his vast merits, even the poison, the greatest poison in the three worlds, cannot bring harm to the Buddha. Not even poison, because the Buddha can transcend the three worlds. His purity, his complete purity, can transcend the three worlds, because his body and his mind are just like indestructible Vajra, and the Bodhisattvas are like that too. Even after the Buddha passes away and enter nirvana, so even the fire itself could not touch the Buddha's body. So how could you talk about the Buddha eating poisonous mushroom soup or poisonous mushroom porridge, and had to pass away due to that? If you use the fire from the mundane world, it could not even burn the physical body of the Buddhas, then how can a poisonous soup can actually bring death to the Buddha? This is just like for someone who does not have wisdom. If somebody who does not have any power, who does not have any wisdom, like the Buddha, then of course it could happen. But the Buddha, he could actually see through countless lifetimes of countless sentient beings, their countless karmas, due to his supernatural powers, supernatural wisdom. So with somebody like the Buddha, he actually could transcend all of his karmas through his supernatural wisdom, but people could not see that. And you actually have to see something that has never happened in human history before. When the Buddha entered parinirvana, they put the Buddha in a metal coffin, and it was completely sealed. And at that time, Gazip, Kassapa was not there yet. And so he was saying that, oh, I'm so sorry, because I could not come back to see you because I had other Dharma activities, because the Buddha did not allow the arhats, the disciples, not to use supernatural powers. So that's why he had to walk with his disciples a long way to go back to see the Buddha, and before he passes, but they were late, and so and he was kneeling down, he was crying due to that. And at that moment, the Buddha, used his supernatural force and used his foot and pushed through the metal coffin so that his disciple could touch his foot. So with this kind of power of a Buddha, of a fully awakened person that transcend all the dharmas of the mundane world, then how could a poisonous bowl of porridge could actually bring him to death? So actually, regarding an untainted body, with an untainted body, when you take vitamins, then it doesn't bring any effect to the body. So it's the same with the poisons. If that person take the poison cannot affect the physical body either. So now when we're talking about the three doors having purity, then what is it? We've talked about the last product, which is the consciousness. That is the last product of us. But here we're talking about the aura. So the aura is just like our soul, if we want to use that. But the aura is just like our vital living force. It is our vitality. So we're talking about our physical body. We're talking about from a scientific point of view. Then we have the circulation, the blood circulation, and we live due to that blood circulation. But beyond the mundane world, the physical world, we're talking about the vitality, because after we pass away, our four elements have disintegrated, and so the aura, the soul, the vitality, it's something that cannot disintegrate. So is the vitality, is this vitality pure? Actually, it depends on the consciousness, because if our consciousness, whichever it moves or whichever it is disturbed in, whichever direction it disturbs or it moves towards, then it affects the aura. It affects the color of the aura. So if you are pure, then you are completely white. If you are just a little pure, then maybe it is a cream color. And then if you are completely pure and wise, then it becomes gold. So actually, the consciousness creates or affects the affects the functional mind, and then the functional minds will affect our brain. So the purest of all, the purity of all, it's still the nature of our mind. So if all the holy beings merge with the state of purity, then the whole physical body will become pure. So everything is merging into the physical body. So again, this consciousness is the root of everything. Without a consciousness, then there's no mind. But if we have complete faith in all the pure dharmas, in all the pure virtuous ways, then we are talking about the purity of the nature of the mind, because due to the purity of the nature of the mind, that it makes our consciousness pure, then it makes our aura pure, and then it makes our body, speech pure. So everything, you have to go back to the source, which is to the root of everything. But if you are doing things in the middle way and we don't understand it, then you're just maybe just a little bit better than an ordinary person. But if you can understand this, that everything goes back to the root source, then you cannot see that all the dharmas in the world are pure. So that's why you have to dedicate so that you can actually see that all the dharmas are completely pure. And so then you have to dedicate toward the true nature of the mind. And now here we're talking about dedication toward the roots of goodness. All of us are here We have the aspiration so that we can understand the truth. So what is that? That is one of our roots of goodness. So this morning we wake up and we feel like we want to go to the temple. So this is our root of goodness that motivate us so that we want to go to the temple. But then again, it also depends on our merits. So we generate this thought of going to the temple, but do we have enough merits to be able to come here? So actually, you may have the merits to come here, but then do you have the ripened conditions to come here? So the ripened conditions also have to be there. So you have to have roots of virtue. You have to have merits, and you have to have ripened conditions. So even if it's just a very small thing in the world, you still need all three of them. So that means that you need the roots of goodness to make all of the virtuous way completely pure. So you have to accumulate many virtuous ways throughout lifetimes. You cannot just base on one lifetime in order to enter into deep samadhi or meditative absorption. Otherwise, everything that we exist, how we exist in this life, we always base everything on the six senses. And what are the six senses? The six senses are the physical senses in this mundane world. And how do we use the six senses? You use the six senses based on our perception. And if we look at things or we hear things based on perception, then that means that we are actually very erroneous. We don't see things actually as they are. And if we don't see things actually as they are, then we do not live correctly, we do not live rightly, we do not live according to the truth. And if that's so, then that's not the pure or the virtuous way. So what does it mean? It means that we have to amass, to accumulate all the roots of goodness so that we can develop pure virtuous ways. So that's why we need to dedicate. We need to dedicate toward the pure virtuous ways so that we can make sure that our roots of goodness, our merits, and our conditions are all ripened so that they can support our activities in this lifetime. And then we are talking about the indestructible path of the enlightening the indestructible faith in the enlightening path of the bodhisattvas. Here we're talking about complete faith, indestructible faith. For example, if we listen to somebody talking about the bodhisattva's way, well, like the sutra here they were talking, maybe in the middle or in the beginning we don't really have this faith. Then slowly we have this faith, we develop this faith, and then actually we have a chance to learn from the bodhisattvas who have entered this world to teach us so that we can transcend our delusion. And then from ourselves, when we receive this blessing from the bodhisattvas, then actually we actually receive and we actually immerse in this. And during the time when we immerse, then this no longer a faith, because it is now something that is even stronger than a faith. Throughout our lives, nothing can change our mind, nothing can change our faith anymore toward the bodhisattvas. So what you should do, and you should write something on a piece of paper and put it at home so you can read it every day. When you think of the bodhisattvas, what do you think of them? How do you think of them? You have to think of them and their sole aspiration, their sole accomplishment is to help us so that we can become enlightened, so that they can perfect us. And because they want us to attain enlightenment, that's why they make the aspiration so that themselves can attain complete enlightenment, so that they can save all the sentient beings and help all the sentient beings to also attain enlightenment. And that is the sole reason why the Bodhisattvas go throughout the 3 worlds, go everywhere, travel everywhere to help us. And if we have this faith about the Bodhisattvas, then what does it mean? It is similar to when we were talking about about having indestructible faith about the sentient beings. Because in the Lotus Sutra, the Buddha said that all Buddhas are all sentient beings as Buddhas to come. So, but you have this faith. You believe that you yourself are Buddhas. Actually, no, it says in the Lotus Sutra, it said that we have already been Buddhas, not Buddhas to be, but we have already been Buddhas. So do you have this faith? And if you don't have this faith, and then the faith in the Buddha Dharma is not strong enough, it's not firm enough, because the Buddha himself had said that. So at one point he said, Buddhas, I myself have been a Buddha, have attained Buddhahood, and you yourself will attain Buddhahood. So do you believe it? Do you think that, oh, the Buddhas have practiced very diligently, so now he's a Buddha, but we don't have that merit? But actually, no, the ultimate truth is that the Buddha has said we have already been primordially Buddhas, and if we don't have this faith, then our faith in the Buddha Dharma is not firm enough. So the Bodhisattvas truly, have the aspiration to help us to become fully awakened. So they have used all their roots of virtues, their merits. They want to help us so that we ourselves can become fully enlightened like themselves. So whenever we can think of this and we could understand this, then we should feel deeply, deeply touched, because all the Bodhisattvas, they travel everywhere throughout the world, and they solely dedicate just so that we can attain fully Buddhahood. So, if we have this mind frame, and we think that the Bodhisattvas have this mind frame that, oh, I want to become enlightened so that I can remain in a state of nirvana and enjoy the state of nirvana. But that's not how the Bodhisattvas are, because they could see all the suffering that all of us are going through, and they have transcended these sufferings, and they really empathize with our torments, our physical and mental torments. So they want to dedicate, they want to work very hard so that they can enlighten us and bring us to the state of Buddhahood. And if we truly understand all of that about the Bodhisattvas, then you also have to make the same aspiration as the Bodhisattvas. So we should think that, oh, I turn my mind toward you, the Bodhisattvas, and I could understand your aspiration. So I want to also follow in your footsteps and to follow in your instruction, so that I myself can transcend the suffering of the world, so that I can pay my gratitude to all of you. I want to make the same aspiration as you. And as long as there's still sentient beings suffering in the 3 worlds, then I will continue to work hard at delivering them. So if you truly have faith in the Bodhisattvas and in the Buddha Dharma, then you should develop this faith and to follow in their footsteps. Because actually without us, the Bodhisattvas would not have to work so hard to exert so much in order to save us. We could see that due to the loving kindness and due to the love that the Bodhisattvas have for us, that's why for limited lifetimes they have entered the 3 worlds, enter the mundane world in order to save us sentient beings. Even in the lower realms, the Bodhisattvas also enter the lower realms to deliver the sentient beings. So if in our human world, if we don't believe in the Bodhisattvas, then actually what does it mean? It means that your roots of goodness is just so vain, so vague. Because if in this lifetime you do not have any love and respect for the Bodhisattvas, then truly your roots of goodness are so vague and so very very flimsy. So you have to continue to practice so that you can rejoice in the aspiration of the bodhisattvas, so that you can make promise to them, so that you can make promise to yourself, so that you can follow in the footsteps of making the same aspiration and dedication as the bodhisattvas. Because the bodhisattvas have this indestructible dedication, because after the bodhisattvas already attained enlightenment, they made the aspiration to impartially, pervasively help the sentient beings to attain Buddhahood, no matter how difficult. It is because they have the greatest, the transcendental aspiration. Because they have made such an aspiration, so this aspiration becomes like a force of vigor. So in the beginning, they just made aspiration, but once they have entered the mundane world, then slowly it becomes a vast, a strong force, because your aspiration has become a force in order for you to continue to maintain in a mundane world and to continue to do your work. But when it has become a force, then you are able to transcend all the difficulties, all the challenges. Let's take us for example. Let's say if someone told us, oh, please give up your physical body right now so that you can swiftly go down to the animal realms to help the animals, the four-legged beings, which is talking about the animal realms, not talking about the hungry ghost realm or the realm of the hell beings yet. And so let's say if we right now you are staying here in this nice temple, and then there's a temple that is in a very remote and poor area in the country. Would you dare to go there? You know, people would ask you to come, and then we can organize a party for you and send you off to the remote temple. Would you dare to go? But here the bodhisattvas, they are in a state of purity, but they made the aspiration to go into the hell realms. Even in the hell realms, for example, in the hot hell realms, and they have to go through the experience of being burned over and over again. But the bodhisattvas continue to remain in the hell realm so that they can help the people whom they are destined to be helped. So then they have to go through the same activities, the same experience of those beings in the hell realms, in accordance with those beings' activities. So it's like we don't have the karma to have the kind of horrible retribution, yet we make the aspiration to go there. It's just so indestructible. So for example, right now for us, if we're talking about all the prisons, for example, prisons in the mundane world, let's say if those prisoners in the prisons have to suffer so much, they don't have any freedom. But now somebody tells us, oh, please go to the prison to help them, and then you have to eat like them, you have to live in bondage like them. Would you be able to do that? Well, actually, maybe you don't think so much about it, because you may go in there and then you give a teaching and then you go back home. So that's too easy, right? But if you make the aspiration to go into the prison, you may have to go into the prison, being in the dark cells, and being in a prison that is that you are in complete bondage, that you don't you cannot even move your body because the cell is so small. So if those bodhisattvas who make the aspiration to end up in the prison like that, they are actually bodhisattvas. They can do that, but us ordinary beings won't be able to do that because we don't have the same kind of great aspirations as them. And then here we are talking about making dedication toward the Dharma teachers. believing that the Bodhisattvas are actually Buddhas. For us ourselves, can we believe in it that Bodhisattvas are Buddhas? It is because we don't truly understand the state of being of a Bodhisattva or a Buddha yet, because we think that the Buddha is higher and the Bodhisattvas is at a state of being that is lower. So when we have to suffer, then we pray to the Avalokiteshvara's Bodhisattva. We think that we pray to the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, but actually that is not the correct view, because there are so many Bodhisattvas who come into our world to support the lineage of teaching of the Buddha. For example, when we heard in a sutra that when one Buddha is here, then all the bodhisattvas who have already attained Buddhahood in the past re-enter this world as bodhisattvas, even as a lay person, to assist the Buddhas and the bodhisattvas. So they can appear in whichever forms, but they have to manifest in whichever forms in order to help or to assist with the Buddha Dharma. It doesn't mean that they have not yet attained Buddhahood, but they appear in this world in any form, and they can take the forms of the bodhisattvas. So the bodhisattvas doesn't necessarily mean that the bodhisattvas are not Buddhas. So the bodhisattva enter in this world to help all sentient beings. And here we're talking about the teachers of the Buddha Dharma. So here we're talking about the Buddha Dharma masters, not just someone who can give teaching in a normal way, but it is somebody who is able to employ the precious teachings to transcend or to deliver the sentient beings. A Buddha Dharma master doesn't necessarily mean that somebody who can give teachings or who is eloquent in giving a teaching. Many masters can give very good teachings. They give very great deliverance, but can they transcend the sentient beings? Can they break through the ignorance of the sentient beings? The real and the genuine masters of the Buddha Dharma have to be able to break through the delusion of all sentient beings. And sometimes they don't even give teachings. They just enlighten one person, and if this one person can be transcendental and can break through the three worlds, then that is a true Dharma master. But if there's so many teachers who can give teaching, but their disciples are not able to deliver any being, then such a master is not called a master of the Buddha Dharma. So the master of the Buddha Dharma has to be somebody who himself has transcended the suffering, who has transcended the three worlds. And when you say bodhisattvas are masters of Buddha Dharma, it means that these Buddha Dharma masters are equivalent to Buddhas, because bodhisattvas are actually enlightened, and bodhisattvas are giving teaching to sentient beings, and bodhisattvas who are enlightened beings are trying to help the sentient beings to transcend the three worlds. So all skillful means can be expedient means of a bodhisattva. And a Buddha Dharma master doesn't mean it's somebody who gives teaching, but a Buddha Dharma master is somebody who can use any means to help the sentient beings to get rid of their attachment, get rid of their clingings, and who are able to transcend all the difficult circumstances and to transcend all the dharmas. They have to have this kind of power. And when we're talking about a master, a great master, they have to have this force, a living force. And what kind of force is this? The force that they can deliver the sentient beings, the force that they can transcend the delusion and the three worlds, and who themselves have the ability to deliver all sentient beings, who have the power to give rise to their own wisdom, who have the power to help the sentient beings to give rise wisdom to themselves. So when talking about Dharma master, it is the master of all dharmas who are able to transform all the delusions of all sentient beings so that they can themselves can be delivered. And a bodhisattva, a dharma master, a true dharma master, can also give teachings to other great bodhisattvas. And when we talk about a Dharma master, we have to be very careful of giving somebody the name Dharma master. So talking about bodhisattvas, the bodhisattvas themselves are true Dharma masters. And if we have this indestructible faith in the bodhisattvas, and not just faith, but we know that they are bodhisattvas and they live in accordance to the truth of the Buddhas, and they have the same kind of loving kindness and love and wisdom, enlightened wisdom just as the Buddhas. And if we have this faith in the bodhisattvas, then definitely you will meet bodhisattvas one day. And if we don't have this faith that the bodhisattvas are true Dharma masters, then we haven't established any virtuous connection yet. Then meeting them would be difficult. And now here we're also talking about the indestructible faith, about the supernatural powers of the Buddhas, the spiritual powers of the Buddhas. We haven't yet witnessed the supernatural powers of the Buddhas, so it's very difficult for us to have this faith in it. So all of us are sitting here, right? Do you believe that it is due to the spiritual powers of the Buddha that you are here, that he is protecting us, he's protecting our Sangha so that we can have peace sitting here, listening to the Dharma? Yes, it is the truth, because they are always protecting the true Dharmas. And wherever there's the true Dharmas, then the Buddha will be protecting that Sangha, that assembly, and not just the Buddha, but even the disciples of the Buddha, they will also be protecting us. But the Buddhas continue to prophesize and to continue keep in mind the Bodhisattvas. So the Bodhisattvas give blessings to every place that speaks the Dharma on behalf of the Buddha. And when we are practicing, for example, when we are practicing, we're not talking about giving the teaching on behalf of the Buddha, but now we're practicing the Buddha's Dharma that the Buddha had taught us. Just like when it was said in the Lotus Sutra, in these three words, regarding every sentient beings, whatever that person is doing, whatever that person gives rise in the mind, or whether he practices in the mountains or in the market, then the Buddha would know about it. So if the Buddha knows about it, then he continues to protect us, to embrace us, to pray for us, to bless us. So what is that? That is the supernatural power, the spiritual power of the Buddhas. So we were in the hell realms many lives ago, and now we are human beings. We are practicing the Buddha Dharma. Then what is that? It is through the supernatural of the Buddhas. So this is just a way of explaining about it, but actually it is inconceivable. The supernatural powers of the Buddha is inconceivable. So in the past, we were talking about history of one person called Mayakayip, and he tried to harm the Buddha by putting the Buddha in a cave, in a place with a poisonous snake. But the Buddha was able to transform the snake himself and came out safe and alive. And then there was a story about how one person wanted to offer a meal to the Buddha, and actually the old man Mayakajip, he was very jealous of the Buddha. So he did not want the Buddha to become more prestigious than him in that region. So at that time, he wanted to go to that reception by himself first, and he wanted to put the Buddha, to put him in a hut that was very far away. So he wanted the Buddha to come after him. But after he opened the door to the reception room, he already saw the Buddha sitting there in the reception already. And he was very shocked. He said, "Oh, how could you be here so swiftly?" So the Buddha said, "Oh no, I did not walk here." And so at that time the Buddha said, or he did not say it, but actually nobody knew that at that moment the Buddha already attained arhatship. So there was another incident that happened. There was a millionaire who made an offering, a meal offering to the Buddha again. Then at that time, everybody came at the exact same time. So the Buddha appeared on the tops of the mountains everywhere as this man walked toward the reception. As he was on the way to the reception, he saw the Buddha on the top of this mountain and on the top of that mountain. And then when he entered the reception room, he already saw that the Buddha's bowl was filled with food already. And the food, the food smells so good that he has never smelled such kind of food in this world in the past. And then he said, "Oh, this morning when I left the house, you were still sleeping, and then as I was walking on the path, I saw you on top of the mountains walking back and forth. But how come you're now here, and what kind of food is this?" So the Buddha said that actually this is food from the God's realm, and the God's realm made offering to me, and this is the food that I receive from the God's realm, not just from humans in this world. So this is the kind of supernatural that we have heard about Buddha. And there was one time when the Sangha, the monks were walking with the Buddha, and then there was a big storm, and there was a waterfall that was very strong. The current was very strong, and the Buddha saw that if the group could not cross this waterfall at that time, and there were so many wild animals there in the forest, and if they could not cross this waterfall this evening, then many people will be harmed in the evening. So the Buddha told everyone to close their eyes, and without a blink of an eye, 1,200 monks already crossed the waterfall, and it was the supernatural power that the Buddha was able to perform. So there was another history of how the Buddha performed supernatural. This is the place where the Buddha left this world. To go to the higher realms, to go to the to Sita's realm to give teaching during the tranquil season. So it for other arhats with supernatural power, it would take them a few months to even go there. But then when people bid farewell to the Buddha so that he could go to the Tushita heaven, so from this world to the God's realm, you cannot just bring your physical body with you there. You cannot travel like that. the Buddha would, rise up and he would disappear. And then when he returned, to the reaches of the physical eyes so that everybody could see him, and then people would see his form again, and then he would descend. So that was where he gave teaching to Queen Maya Devi. So over 2,000 years ago, we have heard about the history of the Buddha only, but we have never heard of similar supernatural power from a second person. Even when we talk about somebody who already passed, how could he push his foot through the metal coffin? And how could it be that the fire could not burn his physical body? Because the Buddha uses his samadhi, his power of samadhi, to cremate his own body. He did not even allow the fire to touch his physical body. So when we talk about the God from a Tushita heaven who came down to the world, we thought that, when the Buddha went to the Tushita heaven, then he would walk up there. So actually, no, it did not happen like that. In our human world, we could not see any of that, and we could not witness any of that. But as far as supra-mundane powers, the Bodhisattvas may be able to know some of them, but they may not be able to know all of them. So with our ordinary eyes, we actually see that the Buddha's walk, one step after another step. He took one step after another step as he go for baking for food, or to go on alms. But actually, we could not see that as he was walking step by step, baking for food in front of the monks, in front of the Sangha members, to receive the food from the donors. But actually, at that moment, he was already in the Tushita heaven giving teaching, and then he already came down, and then sometimes we could not see that there was a donor. She was living very, very far away from where the Buddha was. If you had to walk, then you would have to walk for 8 days in order to reach that place. But the Buddha could see that right at that precise moment, he had to receive the food from this elderly person who was not able to walk. So at that very moment, the Buddha would receive that food, and she was able to offer him the food, even though the Sangha members or the monks could not actually witness this with their eyes. So we could not see that the moment that the Buddha was walking, begging for food, he was actually giving teaching in the Tushita heaven already, or not just in the Tushita heaven, but he was giving teaching in the 10 directions. But in this world, we could only see that the Buddha was sitting still in quiescence in the mundane world. So regarding the supra-mundane powers of the Buddhas, no one in this world could actually witness this. No one in this world could actually fathom this. If we could understand a little bit about it, then actually we have great merits already. If we can just understand a little bit about how it actually happened as Buddha went around on foot begging for food. So in his bowl, he had already received countless food from countless realms already. But for us, we could only see one elder lady. We could only see an old lady putting some food into the bowl of the Buddha. But the gods too, they also want to compete with this, because they also want to offer food to the Buddha. So they had to work very hard to try to put food in the Buddha's bowl, because when the Buddha wanted to open his arms and open his heart to receive it, sometimes if he did not open the heart to receive it, no one was able to offer it, because only when the enlightenment beings are able to open their hearts and their mind to welcome the offerings, then yes, you can offer them. So when the Buddha opened his heart to welcome the food offered to him as he was walking throughout India, then it is due to his power. So let's say if there were gods who came down from other realm, other gods' realm to offer foods, then after the Buddha received the food, he would give teachings to the beings in that God's realms. So throughout the worlds of all the people, of all the beings who have made a food offering to the Buddha, then the Buddha too had to give teaching to all those countless realms at the same times. So it is very difficult for us to fathom the inconceivability of the supernatural powers of the Buddhas, but we were not able to see all of that. We have to reach a certain level of spirituality in order for us to understand a little bit about this. Otherwise, we won't have the ability to actually fathom it. So in the past, we used to talk about how the Buddha was giving teaching, right? So throughout the three worlds, no one could actually understand how the Buddha did Dharma activities within just one single sadhana. Maybe it would take us our whole lives to talk about all the Dharma activities of the Buddha within just one single sadhana. So the merits and the supernatural of the Buddhas is beyond our imagination, beyond our understanding. For example, we saw that the Buddha was sitting in front of 1,200 monks in the land of India, and the Buddha was saying, "Oh, monks." So during that moment when the Buddha said, "Oh, monks," that's just a very brief moment, right? But within that very brief moment, the Buddha was already giving, teaching countless discourses, giving countless discourses to countless beings in countless worlds, and countless beings have already attained enlightenment. And then after that, he would say the next sentence. It is in our world, everything manifests very slowly, but here within a blink of an eye, we have 20 great thoughts, and then in each thought there are 16,000 something smaller thoughts, more subtle thoughts. But that's still very ordinary, because for the Buddha, within just a single sadhana, he already appeared in countless worlds, giving countless discourses, enlightened countless sentient beings already. So this is something that is beyond our imagination, beyond our small little heads. We are not able to fathom it at all. So why are we talking about this? Because we want to know whether we have enough faith about this. Do we have indestructible faith in regards to the supernatural powers of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas? So if we have this great faith in regards to the abilities or the supernatural powers of the Buddhas, then yes, we have enough faith in the Buddha and the Dharma. Or if we just think that, yes, there was a Buddha and he gave teaching in the past, and here are the teachings that have been collected and have been preserved until now, and we're learning from them. But that's not it. That's not enough, because all the wondrous Dharma that the Buddha had taught in the past, in countless world realms, in countless world systems, they are still pervading the whole cosmos. And the Bodhisattvas, according to their spirituality, they are able to receive the teachings from the Buddhas, the teachings that continue to remain uninterruptedly within this whole cosmos. So in the past, the Buddha had taught the Buddha Dharma, and nowadays the Buddha Dharma still pervades the whole universe in the 10 directions. So when you reach a state of spirituality, of meditative absorption, that you yourself can actually listen to all the dharmas that the Buddha had taught within this whole cosmos, then yes, that is the moment of enlightenment. So when we're talking about transcending time and transcending space, that is true enlightenment, because at that moment all appearances become your own appearances. You are part of all the appearances that exist in this whole cosmos. So for example, if the Buddha had taught a teaching in the past, and not just one Buddha, but all the Buddhas in the past, if you are in the moment of true enlightenment, merging in the great samadhi, then you'll be able to listen to all the dharmas given by all the Buddhas in all the countless realms in the past. So right now in this world, we could only hear one word following by another word, and if three people are talking at the same time, then you cannot discern the sounds anymore. But once you are in great samadhi, then countless teachings, countless sounds by countless Buddhas within the cosmos can be heard by you. So let's say if we have countless beings and the Buddha wanted to give teaching to countless beings like that, then if he turns his mind toward whichever form, then whichever world, then that world will be able to receive it once the Buddha opened his heart mind to welcome all those beings to listen to his teaching. But here in this human world, all the frequencies of the humans, we listen to the frequency of the humans, but in regards to the other worlds, they don't receive the same frequency as we are receiving. So they receive the teachings from the Buddha through different frequencies, and it's not the same as our languages. There are words that you have to be very deep in samadhi, in meditative absorption, in order for you to understand the way of communication of those words. So all those frequencies are very different. Some of them are very subtle, some of them are very loud, some of them are very large, etc. But they are communicating in a way that is different than the way we communicate in our world. So in regards to the supernatural powers of the Buddha, it is beyond our our understanding. It is beyond something that we can fathom. So we really need to have faith in this. And if you have faith in this, then that means that you have established a certain karmic connection. You have established some virtues, so that in the future you will be able to attain the state of true enlightenment as the Buddha, so that you yourself can help sentient beings to transcend their suffering, to transcend the three worlds. So in having faith in the Buddhas, meaning that you also have to have indestructible faith in the supernatural of the Buddhas. So when we think about the Buddha, we think about his wisdom, then what should we do? We have to pay homage with all of our sincerity, all of our devotion, all of our respect, because in regards to the reaches of the Buddha's compassion, there's no way that we can actually fathom, right? We cannot penetrate, right? But from an ordinary point of view, we can feel, or we can think that the compassion of the Buddhas are It's inconceivable. But if we do not have this faith toward the inconceivability of the Buddha and of the Bodhisattvas and of all the Buddhas, then actually we don't really have deep faith yet. Actually, there's no one in these three worlds that can be comparable to the Buddha. And transcending this three worlds, we are talking about the worlds of the bodhisattvas, and that's even more vast, more pervasive than the three worlds, because the three worlds, when compared to the worlds of the bodhisattvas, are nothing but just a grain of grass. I'm sorry, a grain of sand. So we don't understand about any words, even the different words in the form words or formless word or in the desire words. There's just so many words that we don't understand. We cannot fathom, we cannot penetrate. So then it goes from the desire word to the form word to the formless words, and then transcending to the word, to the arhats. It is incomparable to whatever we can understand about the word in our human world. So then, even then, after that, there's the world of the bodhisattvas, the spheres of the bodhisattvas. It's beyond our imagination too. So we talk about the 10 directions. That's just a general understanding, but we cannot truly understand it. But regarding the supernatural power of the Buddhas, throughout all those countless words, immeasurable words within one satna, the Buddha can appear in each and every of those spheres, in each and every of those worlds. So when we talk about this, maybe we rely on our imagination. But in order to have the kind of wisdom to understand this, then actually you have to wait until the moment you attain arhatship, and at that moment you'll be able to understand a little bit. Even for the bodhisattvas who have made aspiration for the first time and have attained the initial bhumis, then maybe they would know a little bit about the abilities of the Buddha. But when we talk about the Buddha, we may have a little bit of an understanding about the Buddha. Even that is just too arrogant already. But then there are many people who said, oh, they know the Buddha, they understand the Buddha, but that is that is not true. That is erroneous, because let's say regarding a mosquito, if the mosquito's leg just dip a little bit of water from the ocean, and that's just tiny piece, that tiny wetness, on the tip of the leg of the mosquito, that is our understanding compared to the abilities, the powers of the Buddhas. So if we have ever said in the past that, oh, I understand the Buddha, then that is erroneous speech. Well, actually, if you say that you have attained arhatship and you understand the Buddhas, but you haven't yet attained arhatship, then that's even greater erroneous speech. But here we haven't attained arhatship, and if we say that we understand the Buddha, then it's truly erroneous. So you have to gather and amass enough wisdom, just as the Sariputra had done in the past. He said that you have to gather and amass all the grains of all the sesame seeds, throughout the three worlds, and then you'll be able to understand a little bit about the power of the Buddhas. But for we ordinary beings, it is beyond our abilities to truly understand the Buddha. So when we turn our mind toward the Buddha, with all our devotion, all our respect, our reverence, we pay respect to the Buddha. We pray so that we can continue to meet with the Buddha Dharma every lifetime. When we come back into this life and death cycle, we would meet with the Buddha Dharma again, so that that we can continue to study the Buddha Dharma. All the Buddha Dharmas we need to study, we need to exert our effort so that we can understand the Buddha Dharma, so that we can understand all the powers of the Buddha. So don't say that you understand the Buddha. That is very irrespectful toward the Buddha.
Namo Buddha Shakyamuni. This is the end of an excerpt of a live interpretation of an oral commentary given by Bhikkhu Thich Tue Hai on the Avatamsaka Sutra. The interpreter takes full responsibility for all errors